Alright guys, I'm Sarcastic from the Hyperloops, and I'm going to try to give you a mini breakdown on Tabletop Simulator. We've had several updates since the version that Tiny Grimes had made the video from, so I figured I'd help out. So we're going to get rid of this help symbol thing now. Now, the rough breakdown that we're looking at now is that so Tabletop's changed. This is what we're looking at. We're going to go into searching for a join first before I get into like the creation, because once we get into create, I'm going to show you a bunch of different stuff. So the first option is join. So when you click it, you give it a bit, it's going to load a server with a bunch of people. There's people playing all sorts of games on here, Monopolies, Catans, etc., etc. So, one second. So, searching wise, I know this is really for later, but you'll have to find it. If you write the word Destiny, you'll see the Star Wars Destiny stuff. This one's an Arkham Horror card game, but someone called it SW Destiny. Not sure why. But pretty much you get Star Wars Destiny, and it'll show you all the games. If you do like hide locked, you won't see the locked one. If you do hide full, it'll only show you the ones that have space available. Ones that are so like this is the server name, this is the game type, this is the host, the person who's running it. So you want to keep track here, because if you run into someone that you just don't want to see again, you could either ban them or just avoid them. This is players. Now the thing about players is that so the first number is going to be how many people are in that room, and the second is going to be the number of people maximum that can fit in the room. So when something's one of two, pretty much you're going to go in there and play that person. But you see 3 of 6, 3 of 7, 3 of 10, etc. It goes all the way up to 10 at this current time. You may be just going into view. If people put a bunch of spots, they're usually pretty cool about you coming in just to watch the game. You got to be careful about like voicing out questions and stuff, because they may be recording and different stuff, but that's a different ballgame. But that is the rough breakdown for the rooms. So you would click on one, you would hit connect, and it'll bring you straight into the room. Okay, so we're going to get back out of here. Now we're going to hit create. So in this situation, you can create single player, multiplayer, or hot seat. Hot seat you probably won't use unless, let's say, you're with your friend and you just want to go back and forth, or let's say you want to play against yourself. So now single, you click it, it'll automatically bring you into this room. You would click on Star Wars Destiny, it'll load. I'm going to go out real quick just to show you multiplayer, and then we're going to come back to single so no one comes in randomly. So you click multiplayer, and now you're going to have server name. You can write in whatever you want for it. So like, let's say you're new to this, you might want to write new to TTS, because then you're going to get people that are helpful. And if you're meeting up a friend, you want a password. If you're not, you do not want a password. And then the number of capacity for the people. If you're being taught TTS, you probably just want to go 2, because if other people come in and different stuff, it can be a pain in the butt. You would hit create server, it'll load you straight into the room, similar to how it was just a second ago. So it'll load you in like this. Now right here we'll have your list of games. These first 10 were just like generic stuff that was on the thing when it downloaded, and these ones are workshop modes that were installed. So you'd click on Star Wars Destiny, hit load, and it'll pop you straight in. Now from here, well, I gotta wait for it to load so you guys can see. Waiting. Alright, so all this stuff is loading. It's a bunch of cool stuff, yada yada. It doesn't really matter at this time. Once it finishes, it rotates you over. Normally speaking, in a single player, it automatically makes you player red. In a multiplayer, it does not attach you to a color, so you'll be in there as a gray. Now what'll happen is you right click your name, change color, and you can pick a side. The sides for this are red and blue. Gray is a spectator, black is a game master spectator, so it can see everything that's going on, both players' hands, etc., etc. You don't have to really worry about black game master until much later. That's really good for like recording and stuff. So let's say like 2 of your friends want to play and you want to record and see their hands and like review stuff later. That's what that's for. So we're going to go back to red. So now we'll click here. So now I'll scroll in quite a bit. So this is think of this like a table of contents, like when you're checking a book. So we've got starter deck game, 2-player game, deck building, and news. I've never clicked starter deck or news except by accident. Deck building we'll just roughly go through very quickly. So when let's say you wanted a deck build in here, you can like click hero, and then characters, and you hit spawn. And now it's going to take a second because it's loading, but it's going to load all of the hero characters as long as everything's correct. So if you were trying to build a specific deck, you would go here to grab those cards. Once you were done with the characters, you could switch to upgrades. Now, keep in mind, you want to have it neutral selected also, because you want everything you have access to. You also just want to click the colors you want. If you're playing rainbow, you could leave it and you'll get all four. But let's say you're building like Sabine Ezra. You want to click yellow and gray, so you get the yellow and gray cards. You can see all of them. You probably don't get to this stage until you really know the game. But it'll give you access if you're trying to build in here and be relatively quick. Or just have dice that aren't all jacked up. The jacked up thing I'm referring to is if you build on the SW Destiny website, and then you like import over here, which requires many more steps. There's dice functionality issues because some words, some of the things will have like an apostrophe, so like raise staff, but in coding, sometimes apostrophes and things like that can cause ginormous issues because how one person codes it versus another, etc., etc., and that's pretty much the breakdown. So that's that. You would go through, build all your stuff. There's a bag over here. You would drag it out, put your cards in together like in a pile. You could like highlight, and then you would just put it in. So then later you could right click. Well, actually, we'll get to the save object stuff. Actually, I'll talk about save right now. You can right click, hit save object, and once you do it, it'll add it to this list of items of saved objects. If you right click and click on your bag down here, you can name it whatever you want. So we're going to name this poop. Then I'm going to right click and hit save object, hit save in the root folder, saved objects, and it'll be right here. It's in poop. I can drag it out, and it is the same 3 cards I just had. So we'll delete those. Sorry. Delete poop. Right click, or not right click, hit the 3 dot, delete. So we're going to go back here, we're going to hit back. So when you're setting up a game though, like this will be after your deck's already created and whatnot and all of that stuff. So hopefully everything will do fine. So the setup here is, since you're red, you would pick the number of characters you're using. So Palpatine obviously is 1. But some people do, they click 2 when they click Palpatine. The reason being is because if you click 1, everyone knows what you're playing. You might get some spiteful people that will go and whip out mono yellow or some deck that counters Palpatine, and maybe you're trying to just get real testing, and you don't want people to just play that deck that auto beats it. You can't do much if you try to pull out 4 wide and someone pulls out Politic. You got to move on with your life. But you would pick the number of characters you are. They would pick the number of characters they are. And these are just different sets of tokens. The tokens really don't matter. I leave them on classic, but people switch them. So I'll show you some of the different stuff. I guess you could call them cool, whatnot. But like, so these tokens look vastly different from the original ones that you get from like the starters and whatnot. So now what we're going to talk about quickly is a shortcut. So if you hit shift on your keyboard and then the question mark, which is to the left of the shift button on the right side, you're going to get this cheat sheet. This cheat sheet is super useful because it tells you about the pan camera. So WASD, for moving there. WASD for moving around. I don't know why I was reading it like that, but it's pretty much up, down, left, right. And then you have a bunch of different cheat sheets. So like the normal stuff with like copy paste, Control C, Control V, Control X, like when you're making dice and different stuff. But we'll go over some of them shortly. So I'm gonna just load one of my deck bags, and we'll load up. Where's Jabba sister? All right, that's my family yelling stuff in the background because they're silly and probably have the doors open. So when you pull stuff out, it loads. So now characters, I tend to stack them, but you can just put them in one at a time. When you put them in the character section, they automatically load their dice. But like in this scenario, Jabba needs a second one. So if we right click on it, we can do copy, and then we can paste, and it'll make a die. But if you just go Control C, Control V, it's just faster because the shortcut key is like that. Control C has always been copy, Control V has always been paste. Or I wouldn't say always, but for a very long time since my childhood, and I'm old, so yeah. So then deck. Now before you do anything, like let's say you wanted to search your deck, like when you're searching the pile, you can see the pile here and look through it. You don't have to worry about this deck. This deck's already posted online, so that's why I pulled it out. If you go over a card and you press the Alt button, it's to the left and right of your space bar usually. It'll make the card larger as well as dice, so you can see them a bit better. So if you search though and you pull a card out, it rips it straight out, and then you can put it straight back, and it does that as well. So now R is for shuffling. Let me see if this has any script options for it here. It does not. But if you press the R button, which is raise or randomize, it will shuffle it for you. So you shuffle up. Now you could right click and hit draw, or you can actually just press the number pad on your computer for the number of cards you would like to draw. Oh, 1 second. Gotta move my hand back. I don't hit the number pad on the right side of my keyboard. I hit the ones above my the keys. Now you'll see here that I have 2 sets of hands because they added this thing for, like, if I'm over here, I can still look at my hand while I'm like reading my opponent's cards. Almost all of us hate this stupid thing. If you press the letter H, it disappears. You don't have to worry about it. There is one other thing with that, is that when you drag interact cards, you can drag them straight to that hand if they're there. So sometimes when you're not trying to do that, it's a big pain in the butt. But sometimes it is very helpful. So now, let's say you have rolled out. Now, since Night Sister has 5 different sides, this will be much easier. Now, it's weird because the actual breakdown on the real dice tends to go 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th side's on the top, and on the bottom is the 6th side. But on this one, it does it very odd. They're doing it like regular dice, which are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 on the bottom. So don't stress that too much, because the physics here usually don't care about that too much. Like you're supposed to randomize, so why does it matter? Now, up here on the top right, mine says 90. When you first get it, it's going to say 15. You click it a few times until it gets to 90. What this does is it makes it easier for when you activate or deactivate. Now that's via Q and E, which on the shortcuts are for rotating. The F button is for flipping, which is this. And that's very relevant when you have cards in your hand, and let's say you're mulliganing. You could like select multiples of them, press F to flip, so that you can drag them back to the deck and get them back in there. Now, when they're in your hand, your opponent can't see them like this because of the way the interaction works for the game. They have it set up to hide. Like I'll show you real quickly if I switch to blue. See, the hand's not viewable. Okay, sorry. Now back to this. So dice-wise, let's say we want to roll. You can highlight over it like that, press R a few times, and then it rolls and it randomizes and it drops. A couple things you don't want to do. You don't want to not have and just press like R on it. It's not bad, but it's a big pain in the butt, and also sometimes like it's a little weird. It's you can't do that with 2 dice. You'd go like this, and then see like that one didn't roll well. It's a big pain. But if you highlight multiple like this, tap it a few times, good to go. It rolls, randomizes enough for you, you know. Now, let's say a situation you're using this job of focus, okay? Because you know what side you're using on the Night Sister. So let's say we want the 2 damage side, the ranged. We know that's the second side of the card. When you do this, you can press 2 and it'll switch to that second side. Let's say I wanted a discard, it would be 4. Blank would be 6. 1 damage range would be 1. It'll switch it over to it, and it'll actually say it on this number thing over it. So keep that in mind when you're trying to do focus, or let's say you're moving stuff and you knock the dice by accident and you have to fix it. You do that because Q and E will like go through stuff, but it screws up quite a bit. It doesn't always rotate properly. I don't know why it does that, but it just doesn't. And like that's going through the numbers. So like this is the 4th one. So if I hit E once, it should go to resource, and then if I Q once, it should go back to discard. But sometimes that thing doesn't work well if one of the dice things are all messed up. And you never know when one of the dice are just randomly freaky. So pretty much, let's say you have you and your opponent. If you take a damage, you can hit their 1 and it pops to a 1. If you hit it a second time, it pops to a 3. Third time, it goes back away. Up here is for shields. So whilst it's not automated completely, it is very nice to have something we can play online. So the other thing is, let's say you're trying to point stuff out. So let's say he has a character here, and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to damage. So I move it, I tend to go like this, and if since these are base, I would go like this. So this is the order I'm doing stuff. But you could really just say 2, and then they take the 2, and then you're like, all right, 1. Oh, the other thing is this lift height here. If you had like it normally starts off something crazy and it lifts it really high. So when you pick it up, sometimes it drops and does that, and it's like, oops. So I'd say put it very low, so that when you pick it up, it's enough for you to pick up the die, but not for you to like accidentally screw it by like clicking it, and that'll help immensely. I pick it up a little bit when you're doing stuff, so you don't like screw it up. Trying to think now. There's one other thing. So let's say you're claiming the battlefield, and you and your opponent are not talking. The tab button, as you can see over here, switches you this thing. You can tab and then click, and it'll make a ping. It'll arrow. You would then have to either F1 or click back on the grab so that you can pick up dice and items again. Also, let's say I don't know. So like Jabba. Let's say Jabba hits double discard. Jabba's effect is that um, after you activate it, you can re-roll a yellow die. Some people, if they're not going to do anything, will go like this, tab and drag. You don't have to click anything else on the mouse, just tab in this, and like say that you're not doing it, like X. Sometimes you'll just type it in. If you hit the enter button, the chat comes up. So that's hit or miss, however you want to handle it. But you could do that, and then some people will do like ping, ping if it was damage, so it'd be more like ping, ping for that guy. Say that you're doing that to them. So, or like, let's say you have like a force illusion, you're going to use a force illusion, you would ping the force illusion so that they know what's going on. That is the rough gist of it. Now, there are a couple weird things here. So let's say you're cracking a force illusion. When you're milling cards up the top, you could either spread them out like this, like let's say that's 3, highlight, then flip, or some people, 1, 2, 3, let the opponent view for a while. Okay, they're done. Cool. You could hit G after and gather them together, and then bring them over to the discard pile. The discard pile does count as a separate zone in here when the cards are stacked on it. It kind of doesn't make real sense until you see cards with dice that you put there and spawn and pull stuff back. One of the important things in this game is to not hit the delete button. People do it too much. So let's say I spent this resource. People go like that and they delete it, and then if they delete their deck by accident, it's like oops. These do the actions that's said. So if you hit pass, it writes it there, and then so that your opponent knows you passed. Shuffle your hand is good for like right before you discard. That's when it's normally used. And then you would hit discard a card, and it rips a card here. We use the discard a card function, whether it's Kylo 2 or like probe or anything randomized. We do the discard a card. I believe that's most of it. Every time you get resources for round, you just click resources. My suggestion would be to when you use them, put them over on the side. There will be a pile of them there. Some people put their bag over there and just plop them into the bag when they're used up. This way there's no like real big issues. I prefer to keep them on the side in case we're trying to remember what got used or something in a round, etc., etc. So that is the gist. Battlefield, you tend to leave it on the correct side. I can't think. I guess let me go look for an upgrade. This deck's very light on upgrades. So when you play an upgrade out and you pay for it and you put it here, it spawns the dice automatically. And then you just bring it out, over here. You roll out, you bring the stuff out. Bam. So here's a weird thing. Let's say I knew I wanted to roll these 2, but not this third one. I could either A, move this over and then do it, or if you hold control while clicking, you can pick multiple items and just have access to those at the same time. But that's the rough gist of the game. Like once you play with this a little bit, it becomes very smooth. I guess there is one other thing. So like let's say you mulligan, you could do this, highlight the 3 and drag them over. When you pop like that, because all 3 are highlighting, it throws them straight onto the deck. You don't have to worry about anything. Then you would shuffle up and redraw, etc. When stuff gets into like a pile, but they're not like going into each other, and you can highlight and press G, and it puts them all together, it gathers them together. So let's say your discard pile or whatever gets mangled, it does like that, because at some point later in the game you might want to search it, or search your opponent's discard pile to see what's available there. This is pretty much the pile of all the Destiny cards. If you right click, you can hit search. Waiting for it, sorry. And you could type in a card you want. So let's say you want Ray's lightsaber. You know, it's here, lamb, done. You would just drag it out. There's another function for, key for seeing stuff. There's an M for magnifying. It makes it much larger than the alt for you, but sometimes it's not so great. The further out you are, the better magnifying is, but when you're really close, magnifying sucks. So if you need a card in a pile or someone's playing with a card that's not spawning the die, you can go search in there, or if you want a deck build from that. So this brown bag has the 30 battlefields and some custom made fan-made art cards. Then this pile has all of the dice from the cards in case there's an issue you need to go find it. Finding a die in here is insane, so I usually don't suggest it. You'd have to like remember what the picture looks like, and they're loading right now, but it's slow, and that's why I don't suggest it. As you can see, there's some legacy cards in here. The time of this video is before legacies, but after EAW and rival and whatnot. This last bag is just a bunch of bags, so when you want to build stuff or put stuff in bags, you have them there. Over here is a bunch of tokens. So for like damage, something's not spawning right with the damage, you can go do that. I don't know what's loading over here so much. So like backup muscle, whatever, something you had to go back, shields, resource. These ones on the side aren't loading because they're not being used. But that is the rough gist of it. Let me look at this cheat sheet, see if there's anything else. Oh, talking in game. If you press, so there's an option in your configuration for voice to talk. It's in sound. It says voice chat. It says toggle. At the beginning, it's on push to talk. So push to talk, you hold it the whole time while you're doing it. So like you would hold C, talk to your opponent or whatever, and then let go, and it'll go away. Toggle, you press it one time, it stays on there till you finish. You press it, it goes away. They have teams in this. If you right click, you see the change team. So what happens is in the large groups of people, if let's say one of the people playing is diamond, if you change your team to diamond, you'll be able to see their hand. It can be useful for like helping to learn the game or trying to see, you know, pretty much it's a learning tool. Or as for their point, it's for helping the other people out, or so they can see what's going on if they have questions they're trying to help. For the talking, there's a V button. It shows a little T here for team. So in the situations where you want to have chats with your team in this game or other games or whatnot, you can do that. Like I said, it's very useful. I do the team thing quite a bit when I'm recording and people would like to see my hands and whatnot. Let's see. Yeah, most of the other stuff isn't very used much. The camera one is at times because people will switch between the different things. One of these is stuck, I forgot. I think it's first person stuff. No. Yeah, first person doesn't move well. It's like a big pain in the butt, so you always want to go third person. Third person's where I stay at. It's like the bread and butter. But like it's I don't know. However you want that stuff's all preference. Shifting this around in case you mess up, you hold the right click and then you can drag yourself around. Zoom in and out with the scroll bar. You can like double tap Z to like go in and out if you want to see something real quick. And then if you wanted to make items bigger or smaller, you have like the plus and small, plus and minus. So you can make dice much larger. But that tends to screw with the physics a little bit, I believe. Because like you see how high that doesn't go up, and then it just doesn't roll well. So like you don't want to really do stuff like that. But it is interesting enough. You don't see something. Oh, it actually changes in the mid. That's funny. See if there's anything else. Did the voice chats, the typing in commands don't really matter as much. But yeah, shift question mark is going to be your friend. So I would suggest remembering that one in case you want to do stuff or like set up a controller, etc. on this. But my name is Arnold Sarcastic with the Hyperloops, and hopefully this helps with learning how to use TTS a bit. Yeah, enjoy your games, and I would suggest highly if you do like TTS, go to www.patreon.com/icecobra, I believe. Give me 1 second, because this gentleman is the guy who does the he's the one who does the Destiny mod, and honestly, he deserves a round of applause. Like, he does not get enough credit. Yeah, so it's www.patreon.com/icecobra. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna show it on the screen. So Ice Cobra like that, and www.patreon.com/icecobra. ICEKOBRA. That man puts in a lot of effort for us, and he's very helpful. I don't know why I shut off TTS side, but that's the end of the video. You guys have a great day. All right. Thanks. Deuces.